moving to the issue around family visas, which I wanted to ask about in a bit more detail. You'd said that the policy coming in had obviously been quite a shock, it had been quite sudden. There was a particularly difficult period for my constituents, certainly between the announcement being made and then the slight changes and nuances on the policy over Christmas. Can you tell us a wee bit more about what you were dealing with the folk that you deal with in your organisation over that period?
Yeah. We had. There was no consultation. It came just before Christmas, which was a very lovely Christmas present for our families, which is already a difficult time for those who are separated. And obviously, first of all, it was announced, and there wasn't. We didn't know whether it affected people who were already here, like myself included. And then, obviously, there was a turnaround, and it was going to be for people who were coming into the country, as if that was okay. We've still got lots and lots of families who simply just want to be a family and cannot be a family, and it was horrendous. Christmas was literally blighted once again. The Boxing Day of the previous Christmas, there had been an article in the Times alluding to the fact that there may be changes to the family migration threshold, and then nothing said since. And we do have engagement with the Home Office, and so we were quite very surprised that there was no forewarning, there was no consultation. We are known for what we do because we specifically deal with this area. As an organisation, 4th of December, we had steady 2,500 members. Between then and now, we've got over 4,600 members. It went up massively, and every single day we have new members coming. And there are so many people who don't even know that we exist. And when they come to us, they're like, how did we not know you exist? We are so grateful and thankful that you are here, because they are lost, they are scared, they are vulnerable, and they cannot understand why they're being targeted this way.
I had much the same experience in terms of the emails that I've received from people as well. It's been quite difficult for lots of folk and hearing those stories. How do you regard the move from the 18,000 to the 29,000 and then this potential further threshold to 38,000?
As I mentioned earlier, we have members, especially women, who are trying to juggle childcare, trying to juggle a job, whilst also trying to raise money for the extortionate fees, and who are. They weren't even meeting the 18,600, so to suddenly raise it to 29,000, which half the population wouldn't earn, was crazy. When it first came out at 38,700, we just didn't know what to think about that, because such a vast amount of the population don't earn that money. And what it's basically saying is you and your family are not welcome here because you don't earn enough, you're not good enough, you're not worthy, so toddle off, go back to your partner's country or stay in your partner's country. And what an awful message, and equally the impacts of that on the children is absolutely unacceptable and simply outrageous. Children that are being devastated. And also what we're saying to the next generation, that go off, go work abroad, go travel abroad, but don't you dare fall in love with somebody because you won't be allowed back here. And and I think most people should be very worried about that their children will be blocked out of family life here, and they may suddenly find themselves unable to see their grandkids and their children.
Do you think it's, how do you feel about the notion that it only really affects the income of one person? It doesn't take account of the whole family potential income from the partner's earnings?
Yeah, I mean, the first application, it absolutely falls on the British or the settled citizens' shoulders, and that's a massive, massive pressure. We've got we've got partners who are IT engineers, software engineers, teachers, chefs, tradespeople, and regardless of what they actually do for a living, they work and they want to contribute. And when they come here, they are not dependents, and quite frankly, it's massively insulting to be regarded as a dependent. My husband was like, you know, he was a businessman who, when he got here and was able to work, he went to factories. He didn't care what he did. All he wanted to do was provide for us. And, you know, that gets completely overlooked. And let's just wheel out the narrative of being a burden to the taxpayer when, again, I repeat, no recourse to public funds. And even if there is the very small chance that gets lifted, I mean, there's about 2.5 million of people who have no recourse to public funds. There's 2,500 of those actually were successful. And the exceptional circumstances route, it's so exceptional, nobody knows actually what is exceptional, and there are children who are being devastated, and that is not classed as exceptional. We don't know how many people, you know, freedom of information request was done, which we heard about earlier. There are no stats on that. Well, if it's a provision, why do we not have figures on how many are applied for? What we do know is that there's going to be a lot more demand on that, which means there's going to be a demand on the Home Office. There's going to be fee waivers, which we know there's already a backlog because people can't afford the fees. They're extortionate. The administration costs versus what we pay and we don't get back when we're refused is outrageous. Given we are struggling with putting food on our tables, people not being able to pay bills, you've got, you know, mums pushing themselves crazy because they're trying to sponsor their partner, and it's deciding. I've had some people say, I'm struggling to eat because I'm making sure my kids eat.
I've had situations putting these things on credit cards as well and being massively in
I went
debt.
into massive debt, credit card debt, just to be able to keep us afloat. At one point, you know, I regarded myself as quite a successful, you know, in my career. At one point, we were in a caravan in my friend's garden with a 6-month-old baby because of this. And I was like, how did it come to this? Outrageous.
Yeah, absolutely. Share your concerns about this, it's awful. Can you tell me what extent will this increase have on the number of families that are opting for the 10-year route now?
Well, I mean, people aren't going to be able to meet the 29,000. It's as simple as that. And we don't even know how many people are affected because there are so many people who couldn't even meet the 18,600. So, you know, how much that's going to push up those that are affected, and then seeking exceptional, which is expensive. It's an onerous application process, and we don't even know what constitutes, as I mentioned, what exceptional actually is. The bar seems so very high. And it's a 10-year route, as I say, so that's thousands of pounds, and it's making people vulnerable. And we've seen how quickly the goalposts can be shifted, and how that can devastate families. So, yeah, it's the number of exceptional circumstances will no doubt go up. And in fact, I was on a call with lawyers who were specifically going through exceptional circumstances as an application process because they recognised just how much need there's going to be, and they were specifically saying, you need to get your head around this route because there's going to be a lot. And that is just going to have a massive impact on the resources from the Home Office, who are already struggling.
And on top of the visa fees itself, you have the immigration health surcharge as well.
Yeah.
Do you have any particular views on that and the impact it has?
Yeah, so, I mean, we paid on application the surcharge, and then when my husband's able to work, he pays national insurance and he pays his income taxes, and so we're effectively double taxed. And you know, when we get to the end of our route, which is actually a 7.5-year route, because what they also do is they have a stop the clock mechanism. So when you do meet the minimum income requirement, which we did, and we had no idea that this was the case, so we just went along with our 2.5-year route, went to say, right, we meet it, even though we'd met it before, and they said, oh, we're just going to now put you on the 5-year route, but that means we're going to put you back to zero. So the 2.5 years we'd done, no longer mattered. And so we were on a 7.5-year route randomly. And there's been an acknowledgement in the Home Office that that is not a fair element of the policy. If that,